Alright, hello. So, does not seem we are going to get any viewers today, but I'm going to go ahead and just record a lesson for the VOD. So this is, let's see, how far in is this? It's 8 minutes in. About 9 minutes in is when I start talking. Let me just make a note of that for myself. Just get that out of here. Okay. I'm just kind of waiting around here to see if we get any attendance of this. Nate decides to show. Samuel decides to show. So I'm gonna give it till 11:24. You know what? We'll just start. We'll just begin. Okay. Oh boy, that's fun. All right. Maybe we won't begin quite yet. Interesting. Let's see here. Let me see here. Okay, so I want to go this only. Okay. Excuse me. Let me just go ahead and restart this. The technical. Hello, we have image. Very good. Let's get our iPad going. Well, that's me. Hello. It's not what I wanted, but okay. All right. So today I would like to go over a little bit more about scales and a little bit about chords, and this is kind of a continuation of what I had talked about briefly prior yesterday. So if we scroll up a bit here, you can see I'm just keeping like a long document of all the stuff I've written down, so I can just scroll up and review super easy. All right, let me go ahead and make it so you can see me. Adjust this frame. Okay. So, we're going to talk more about the scales, and we're going to introduce the idea of a chord, and yeah, expand on all of this. So this is a lot of this was just kind of like a brief overview. It's very, very rushed, very quick. We're gonna go nice and slow today. So we'll start with a couple definitions. We'll define things so that we know what we're talking about when I demonstrate them. So, what is a scale, basically? Well, as a scale is a collection of notes. So, a collection of notes from these 12. We have 12 distinct pitches that we can choose from, and a scale can have up to all 12 of those notes if you want it to. Key we're going to skip over for now because we're just going to focus on the scales and the chords. But the key is somewhat important, so we'll get to that. But it's more important. The key is more important when you're writing sheet music But it's also, you know, man, it helps to have people to talk to in the chat here. All right. So what is this? This is at 13, 14. I'm going to start my explanation over because I'm kind of going off too many tangents. All right. So at 14 minutes. Don't really want to explain to no one, you know? Okay. 15 minutes in, we're actually going to cut to this point. I believe just kind of start the lesson over. For music. All right. This is a do-over. All right. Take two. So today we're going to talk more about scales. We talked briefly about scales yesterday. I will scroll up. You can see I drew a couple diagrams. I drew out the keyboard with all of the letter names on it, and I highlighted all of the letter names in C major, all of the letter names in E minor, and so on and so forth. But I never actually got into what minor means, what major means, what is the difference between a scale and a key. Oh boy, that's not fun. Yeah, so we're gonna get more into that today, and the idea of a key signature. We'll go ahead and start with the definition of key signature because, well, we've got three ideas that we want to kind of get in our heads today. So we've got the key signature. So this is typically in sheet music you'd see at the beginning of the page. You would see, right, the treble clef. Can I draw a treble clef today? Yes, I can. And you would see kind of a collection of flats here. This, for example, right, so this is what a key signature here would look like. It's just a sort of a label for which of the notes along the staff. Oh, I could use my laser pointer. So which of the notes along the staff, so for example, this one, it's going to be G flat, and I have a B flat, and we're going to have a, right, this is going to be an E flat, actually. So this is technically a key signature, right? And that just tells you if you see notes on the page that they should be a flat or a sharp. But yeah, we will talk more about scales though, because the scale can be a scale can be independent of a key. So we have a key here, a key signature. So we have. Also, I'm going to quickly draw the circle of fifths out for myself. F, B flat, E flat, A flat. Oh wait, no, it's G, C, F, E, D, G, F, flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. Just figuring out which one this is. Yeah, so this is the key of E flat. I'm just gonna leave this here for myself. I'm not gonna quick. I'll just kind of make it small. Don't mind me. So yeah, moving on. Scales. So I have the definition up here already. A scale. We'll start with what I've written down. Scale is a collection of notes starting out at one pitch, and it goes up in a pattern of steps. It could be whole or half steps, or it could be even bigger than those. It could be even bigger than a whole or half step, and I'll quickly go over what a whole or half step is. So, a scale, right? So let's take for example C major scale. So let's see. So scale would look somewhat like this. And then this would be a whole step, this would be a whole step, this would be a whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step. A whole step, so just a quick reminder, whole, half. So when I write a W, that means whole step, which is equal to, so 1 is equal to 2 half steps. Another name for the distance between two pitches is a semitone. So I'm going to go ahead and write that there. Highlight that. So we have half step, whole step, boom, 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 boom. And I've written some of these wrong. This is a half step. And technically we have another note up here. This is going to go up there too. So I'll go ahead and just kind of go through this again. So this is the C major scale, right? Goes up in a pattern. Now, what would be the key signature for C major? Well, which of the we have written here the definition of key signature. I guess we could say the formal definition. And besides the fact that it's the thing you would see at the beginning of a line of sheet music, right? This is what a key signature would look like. What is a key signature? Well, it's which of the notes are flat and sharp. So, for example, here in the key of E flat, we have the E. Obviously, the E is flat, the B is flat, and the A is flat. So let's draw out the A major or E flat major scale. So the scales and the keys are related. This one represents the other. So let's see. But once we get into the DAW, actually, you'll see that these concepts kind of fall apart, which is why I'm sort of figuring out myself. Like, we can always talk about the scales, but once we put it into a project, we'll be working in a key, and plus when you come up with chord progressions, they don't necessarily have to be part of the scale, or they can have other scales. It's the rules of music are fluid, let's just say. But I'm trying to kind of, let's just kind of keep it basic. So E flat major scale, right? So this is what the key signature looks like. Let's draw out the scale, or let's just draw the notes in the scale. So we have E flat. So where should I draw the flat? Let's draw it on the bottom. E flat, and then F, G, A flat, B flat. I think it's on. Yeah, it's on the top. That felt wrong. F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D. So there's our E flat major scale. And this is in the key of E flat major. I'll do another one. So let's do F major. So F major is an easy one. It's only got one flat. That's on B flat. So here's the notes. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E. It's F major scale. Okay? So let's draw out one more example, and I'll explain another way you can look at the scale and kind of determine a scale. You don't necessarily have to have the key signature and the scale together to figure out what the scale might be, right? There are different ways to figure it out. So, like I said before, the scale is a collection of notes that has a pattern. So what is the pattern of a major scale? The pattern goes like this: whole, whole, half. It's something we have talked about before, shown before, but I will reiterate. Whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. So E flat to F is a whole step because it's got E flat and then E and then F. So that is two half steps, two semitones to get to F. Then whole step to G, so F to F sharp to G, and then, or F to G flat to G, and then a half step from G to A flat, whole step from A flat to B flat. I will go ahead and show you on the screen here, so I can play it as well. Let's go down an octave. So here's the E flat major scale. Let's play it on the piano. So here's our first whole step. So we skipped over this this E. It says Q, but that's the that's because that's the key you press, right, to play the E. We have that. So our we have whole step to F, whole step to G, and then half step to A flat. Whole step to B flat, skips over that A. Whole step to C, whole step to D. And so that makes the E flat major scale if we start on E flat. Let's figure out, I don't know, the major scale for A. Let's start on A and let's follow the pattern this time instead of going with a key signature. So let's look at this. So A major scale. And I'll explain another way to come up with, because this is actually kind of a complex one, because it involves not really complex, I guess you can say complex. It involves sharps. So let's figure it out another way, right? Let's figure it out using the pattern. So to start out, we will draw out all the letters that are involved in A major, D, E, F, G. So right, this is a way you can figure out what a scale is or what a major scale is based on the pattern. We'll figure out the minor scale after that, and hint, hint, minor scale is very easy for A. So let's figure out what major is. Also, we'll draw a little spot for a key signature up here because we will figure out what that is. Okay. So let's look at let's draw the pattern underneath for major scale, major pattern. And then we'll see if the notes we have here like checks out, if it works with that pattern. Let's make it so I can see me more. Okay. So full, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. So this is what we need to make sure happens here. So A to B, is that a whole step? So let's go to our keyboard. Let's figure it out. Also, let's set ourselves in the key of A major, because that is the thing you can do with Soundtrap. It's not going to help you with figuring out keys, but it's going to help you with finding loops, making sure they're all in the same key. But I digress. Let's go back to the piano.
Hey, I'm going to the store. I gotta get my prescription.
Okay.
Are you doing a stream?
Huh?
Are you doing a live stream?
Yes. All right. So let's take a look back here. So we'll open up the piano again, and we'll figure out this A major scale. So A, let's start here. You can see where my keyboard is, where my mouse pointer is. So that's our A. For some reason the sustain pedal is on. I don't know why, but that's okay. We don't mind. All right. Actually, I kind of mind. Why is this? Oh, I see. On the left here. Okay. So I already know what this is, so it's like, let's play what we have on the what we have drawn, and we'll kind of compare it. So A to B, right? A to B. Is that a whole step? Yes, because it skips over that B flat. Good. Okay, now we need a whole step from B to C, right? Yes, yes, we need a whole step from B to C. Okay. So B to C. That is not a whole step because there is a note missing, or there's not a note in between, right? The whole step would lead us up to the C sharp. And this right here is precisely why the A major scale uses sharps, is because you have a collection of notes that, let's go back to the iPad screen to explain this. You have the collection of notes from A to G. And each letter name must exist, right? You must have an A in the scale, you must have a B in the scale, you must have a C. So, right, like, you wouldn't see a scale that's like A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, E. You know, you wouldn't see that. You would see A, B flat, C flat, actually, C, or you could do, or perhaps that would be D double flat. You know, it gets This is why you would see scales like that. You need to have each note name needs to be accounted for. So, or each letter name needs to be accounted for. Each letter name should exist in a scale. There are exceptions to this rule, which I will talk about in a minute. Exist in a scale. Unless the scale so here's the hard fast rule. Each letter name, so from A to G, should exist in a scale. So meaning if you are writing out the scale starting on some letter like G, if you're drawing out the G major scale, the G minor scale, the G harmonic minor scale, there's tons of different scale names that have little minute variations in the collection of notes, and therefore have different moods. I can give some more examples later on. We're just focusing really on major because I just want to get the idea of the patterns and building a scale with different methods. So each letter name should exist in a scale unless the scale has less than 7 notes. So we're just gonna follow this rule to like figure out exactly what note names we need to use here. So for the A major scale, we have A to G. We saw from B to C was actually a half step, and it needs to be a whole step here. So what we'll do is we'll raise that C to a C sharp. Okay, so now do we have a half step from C sharp to D? So we got this so far. Up to A. Then from C sharp to D, is that a half step? Yes, it is. It is now because we raised that C to a C sharp. So now this qualifies that D. That D is now in the right place. Is the E in the right place? Well, what do we need next in our pattern? We need a whole step, D to E. Is that a whole step? Yes, it is. D to D sharp to E. Indeed, it is a whole step. So from E to F, is that a whole step? I don't think so. Again, we have a gap here. There's no black key in between E and F. There's no E sharp and there's no F flat. Technically, an F flat is an E, an E sharp is an F. So, yeah. We have a half step here. We need to raise that F to an F sharp. So now, let's go back to our scale that we're building. We have an F sharp now, so that makes this valid. And now because we raised that F sharp, do we have a whole step from F sharp to G? That is a no. That is a negative. So, guess what we need to do? We need to raise that G to a G sharp. Let's do that. So, now we have a complete A major scale. Beautiful. Oops, that was a mistake. And there you have it. That is a major sound, and that is a major scale built successfully. Let's figure out another one. But before we do that, let's figure out the key signature for A major, right? Let's figure that out, because now we have the notes. It should be easy. We have a C, so that is going to go right here. And we have an F, that is going to go right here. Then we have a G, That is going to go right here. Simple. And there you have it, the key signature for A major. Let's figure out the key signature for A minor. A minor. That last bit is a little tall. Bring this forward so I have room. Boy, I need to redo that. It's a little better. So we're trying to figure out the key signature here for A minor. Let's go through the process. Let's draw out our notes. Let's draw out our notes. A, B, C. Oops, that is a terrible B. B, C, D, E, F, G. Great. So here's the pattern for minor scales. So you could memorize this pattern and you could use this to then figure out the key signatures. And I'll show you how this pattern relates to the major scale. So technically you only have to memorize one and a rule, or you can memorize both. So the rule goes as such. Whole, half. Let me just whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. B to C. Yep, that is a half. Okay, so this is the rule for, this is the pattern for a minor scale. Go ahead and isolate it. Let's look at it in a different way. Oops, that's wrong. Whole, whole, half, whole. And now let's look at the major pattern. So this is minor. This is major. There would be some sort of relation. Ah, yes, there is. Whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. If we add the end, if we add the wraparound back to the tonic, then it'll make sense. So right, if we come up here, technically we have another hole that leads us back to the tonic. Right, I'll just like try that there, right? So we have this whole step leads us back to A and the minor scale. And the reason I chose A minor is be just like C major. The white keys starting on A make up a minor scale, so it's a really easy place to start, but start and explain. And why is that? Why is it that A minor and C major share the same keys but are different scales, different moods entirely? And what is A minor in relation to C major? We ask. Well, let's ask ourselves, what is A related to C? It's transposed, right? It is lower. How many steps is it lowered by? So we have C major. We have the fact that C major and A minor share the same keys. What? Keys. Question mark. So C, A. Okay. How many steps does it take to get down to A? So let's go C to B flat, down to A. That is half, half, half. 3 half steps, 3 semitones. Minus half, minus half, minus half. So what does this tell us? What does this tell us? This tells us that if A minor and C major share the same keys, and A is just 3 semitones, 3 half steps down from C, then that means you could take, technically, the notes from any scale, any major scale, that is. You could start 3 semitones down in that scale, and you could have a minor scale with the same notes. So that's also the same as saying, if we, okay, let's look at it this way. So we have 3 half steps here. Let's look at our major pattern. If we look at the end here, okay, let me draw this in red. If we look at the end here, you see we have a whole half. So maybe let's kind of draw the C major scale underneath. Major, and then we'll draw A minor here, just to make things a little clearer. So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then we have here A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We have here at the end whole, which is equivalent to 2 halves, 2 half steps. We have 3 half steps here at the end. So that means we could technically start at C, jump back 2 scale degrees, jump back 2 notes in the major scale, and then get to the A, get to the minor scale. So let's try this. Let's try this with a different scale. Let's try it actually with the A major scale. I'm going to take what we had before. So we're okay. So what I was just talking about, there is a name for it. It's called the relative minor. Now, why would I bring this up? Why would I bring this up? It's because it's important to understand that keys and scales, you know, they don't have to follow these rigid rules. And everything is relative. So like you could, for example, you have a song in C major. You could use this relative minor knowledge to say, okay, this song could also work in A minor. You know, it could have A minor parts in the song, and it would gel together. And if you know more about like what group of notes you're working with and how those groups of notes can be moved around, transposed, it's just good to know. It's a good thing to know. So, and plus I will be using it myself when doing some demos here. So let's continue. It's also really helpful in understanding keys and scales and stuff to know that they are related by some rules. Anyway, let's figure out what the relative minor of the A major scale is. So, easy way to do it. Let's go ahead and we're at the end here. Let's back up to semitone, scale degrees. Excuse me. So you have F sharp here. Let's go ahead and take notes from A major. We'll start on F sharp. D, E, and then obviously back to F sharp. So this, according to the rules, this should be an F sharp minor scale now. Let's listen to it. Also, let's draw the pattern underneath it. I will, okay. Whole, half, whole, half, whole. Whole, half, whole. Whoops. I need to draw my arrows better. Whole, half, whole, whole. Not what I'm saying. That's a whole. That's a half. That is a whole. That is another whole. That is another half. That is a whole. That is a whole. So let's go ahead and check it out on the keyboard and make sure that we are actually getting a minor scale here. So F sharp. Let's find that. Our F's here. So our F sharp is right above that. And let's go F sharp, G sharp. I'm going to pull up the iPad screen at the same time so you can see the scale. Okay. So F sharp, go up an octave. F sharp, G sharp, A, B, B, C sharp, D. I don't have room. I cannot see it. Oh no, segundo. Let me close this. There we go. Okay. Try that again. I'm just gonna play it, no talking. So that's our F sharp minor scale. Sounds pretty minor to me. I'm gonna play it quickly. Let me see. Let me get my keyboard plugged in here. Connected. Interesting. Sometimes my MIDI keyboard does not want to work. Excuse me. Solve the mystery here. Okay. Oh, the drum pad's working. Oh well. I was gonna play it on my keyboard, my MIDI keyboard, but that's alright. I'll just play it on the computer keyboard. Or I won't. I will not, I guess. Here we go. I'm not rehearsed on the computer keyboard. It's difficult to play this scale. And a period. Alright, try this again. Couple more times. So that's our F sharp minor scale. Let's play the A major scale. So same notes. Starting on A this time. Let me figure out what it is. The keys, that is. Trust me, it's very tricky to do. It does take some practice. Not all scale part, but I mean, yes, for y'all, but it's hard to like switch because you're going from period on the D to Q on the E. So it's like go across the keyboard, but I'll get used to it. So I turned on sustain temp somehow. I think, I'm not sure. There's a button over here to turn sustain on and off, but I think there is a key shortcut as well. I just don't know what it is. Yeah. Keep hitting that F. That is a mistake. So we want to go. And then. Well, once I can play it through in its entirety, right? I'll go super. Ah. And that and that. That's our A major scale. I think by the 5th time you are probably sure what that sounds like. Let's do it. Let's do something else. Let's do a different one. Let's just keep going through some examples here, and then we'll talk about chords. So what else? Let's do one more relative minor example. G major. Okay. So, let's figure out what that scale is. G to A, B, C, D, E, F. These are our notes, starting on G. So for major, it's going to be whole, 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 half, whole, whole, and then whole again, half back to G. For minor, well, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do G minor this way, but you could put in the pattern and figure out what the G minor scale is. Or another way, in fact, what we're going to do, we're going to figure out what the G minor scale is, but we're going to do it by using the relative major. Aha. So if we can figure out the minor, a minor scale using the same notes as a major scale by going down 2 semitones, by going down three semitones, 3 half steps, we could, by that same logic, figure out what a minor scale is, or what a major scale is, if you go 3 semitones up in a minor scale. So let's, but that's not exactly what we're going to do here. So G minor, let's figure out what is the relative major in G minor. Well, let's go up 2 semitones in a minor scale to get its relative major. So G minor, G to A to wait a minute, that's not going to work exactly. Hold on. Yes, okay, so let's go up. Okay, all right, yeah, this will work, all right. So let's look at a keyboard. Let's look at the keyboard for this. So G. We want to figure out what the notes in G minor are, but we have no idea where to start. We don't know. We don't remember what the pattern is for G minor. Well, a way you could do it. Let's say you remember what the notes are for a major scale. You know what the pattern is for a major scale. You know that 3 semitones down in a major scale will get you the minor scale. Well, 3 semitones up in a minor scale should get you a major scale. So let's go 3 semitones up from G. See what we get. So G to A flat to A to B flat. So there we go. Up from there. So then B flat major. So theoretically, B flat major should share the same notes as G minor. So if you know the note, if you know how to figure out B flat major, and if you have taken middle school band, you definitely know what this scale is. You have it ingrained in your head. It's got 2 flats, B flat and E flat. Why would this probably be ingrained in your head if you are a brass player or woodwind player, who are mostly brass players? You are very familiar with the B flat scale because that is how your instrument is tuned. So with that in mind, we have the notes in the B flat major scale. We can just move back a couple. We can start on G. And we have our G minor scale. So that is one way to figure it out. Boom. We still haven't figured out the G. We still haven't figured out if this is the G major scale though. So let's go ahead and go through our pattern. So G to A, that is a whole step. A to B, that is a whole step. B to C, that is a half step. Correct. C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. E to F is not actually a whole step. Remember, it's missing the black note in between. So we have to raise the F to an F sharp. So that gives us our whole step we need. And then it just goes back to G on a half step. Cool. So that's G major and G minor. Okay. So we have these collections of notes. We have these scales to work with. We have these templates, I guess you could say. So what do we do with them? Well, we can make melodies. So what to do with your scales? Well, you can make melodies. So you can play. So this is like the main part you would hear. So maybe like enjoying some kind of like typical melody you'd see in a piano roll. You could do bass lines. So this is something like, and when we get to chord progressions, which we're going to very soon, basically the bass line will carry the bottom note, or maybe not the bottom note, a note of a chord, and chords. What is a chord? Well, glad you asked. This is what a chord would look like, or several chords, you know. So you have, well, let's say bass lines kind of tie into the chord section, and I might even extend this out a bit just to kind of like show that bass line is going to line up most often with the chords themselves. So what is a chord? Let's define a chord. Chord, you can't see the whole thing, can you? Chord is a, well, stack of notes. It has a certain quality to it. What do I mean when I say quality? Like major. Major is a quality. So quality, aka major, minor, and you have other interesting ones such as minor seventh or major seventh, even dominant, and the list goes on. The list goes on, and all of these qualities just have to do with, again, the pattern that the chord follows. So chords can be within, and I'll demonstrate this in a minute, but chords can be within a scale, within a key, but they also can, okay, notifications, no thank you. But they also can be independent of that. They can be just a pattern. They can just be thought of as a pattern. In fact, that's what they are. Chords, just on their own, is just a stack of notes that has a certain distance between them. And that may or may not fall within the 7, 8, 5. And I didn't get to scales with less than 7 notes in them, but there are examples of those, and they're interesting. We can play around with a couple of them actually tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be like a bonus. Like I'm not going to be using Soundtrap tomorrow. I'm going to be using Ableton tomorrow to demonstrate some of the creative things you can do with MIDI to make chords, chord making, and scale making, and pattern making a lot easier, and a lot more fun. So, and I'll just show off. There's lots of things I want to show off, like a lot of the concepts we talked about this week. Tomorrow, I'm going to sort of like just go and dig in and do some of the things that I've been saying in Ableton, and just show you what is possible. What is possible. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, right, chords. They have a quality. They are a pattern of stacked notes. Let's give some examples. Okay, so let's go all the way down here. So let me also demonstrate that chords can be in a key or not. So let's give ourselves a starting point. Let's say we are in the uh-oh. My iPad disconnected. 1 second. Give it a minute to reconnect. While that happens, we will come over to Soundtrap, and I'll just draw in. Let's say we are in the key of C major. Let's keep it easy. Oh boy, that's not fun. Presentation. Hey, there we go. Interesting. What's a flip? Okay. Back to what we were doing. So we are in the key of C major. Which means we should be using the C major scale. So let's give ourselves those notes. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And let's kind of talk about a couple of these notes. So we have some important ones to mention. We have the first, aka the tonic. We have the second, the third, fourth, fifth, sixth. That is a G. Sixth, seventh, And these are scale degrees. So why do I number them like this? Well, let me explain. Because this is how we are going to, well, this is one way we are going to look at building chords of certain qualities, because we could use the scale as like an easy like template to kind of, we could draw notes from this scale and make certain chords with them. So that's what we will do. First of all, so again, we'll define a chord real quick. Chord as a collection of notes, a stack of notes separated by some fixed distance. When I say fixed, that means changing. They can, I was going to say they could be inverted, but I'll get to inversions. Fixed distance. So that's all they are. Let's just keep it at that. No more complex than that, but we're just going to find some interesting ways to sort of grab chords from scales. So C major scale. All right. We've got 7 scale degrees. What chords can we make? Well, we have our, let's make a chord with our tonic. So that tonic, aka the first scale degree, aka the root of the scale. Let's just make sure. Yep. So this is whenever we're talking about any scale, the first note of that scale is the tonic of the scale or the root of the scale. Let's form a chord with that tonic. So let's form a major chord. So actually, let's look at this. So we have, let's make a little chart here. Let's make a little chart here. Just thinking about ways to kind of present this effectively. So we have chords by scale. Chords. Let's say chords by scale degrees. We have chords by quality. Okay, so we have scale degree 1, 2, 3, 1 through 7. And I'll move this down because we haven't yet talked about what exactly, what notes are we going to pick from the scale. Basically, we're going to pick notes from the scale and we're going to form chords with them. But what notes are we going to pick? What notes are the best to pick? There's something called a triad. There is a concept known as a triad, which is simply a stack. Is just is a 3-note chord. Can be major or minor. So let's do this then. Triad, major. That's going to be, we have the first note in the scale, or the, excuse me, not the scale, the chord. Then we have So you have root, chords by interval. Let's say interval. Explain what I mean in just a second. Root, then major third, minor third. Then we have triad minor, root, minor third, major third. So here are the two triads we have. Now, I have it drawn two separate. Let me just kind of just fill out this other side real quick before I get into explaining an empty chart. Let's go over here. Let's get this so where you can see it. So let's say we were to take take notes from the scale. Let's do it in terms of these numbers then. So we have 1, 3, 5. Let's make triads in terms of these scale degree numbers, right? So we'll choose like a triad from here, boom, boom, boom. And then we'll choose a triad from this one, boom, boom, boom. And so on and so forth. Picking a triad from E, so E, G, B. And then from F, F, A, C. So on and so forth. So triads by scale degree. So 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6, 3, 6, excuse me, 3, 5, 7, 4, 6, 0. No, 4, 6, 1. 4, 6, 1. Then 5, 7, 2, 6, 2, 4, 7, 1. I believe it's 6, 1, 3 actually. Yeah, because it's 7 to 1, then 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 7, 2, 4. Boy, this is an exciting one, isn't it? But we have, okay. Oh boy, my pencil just died. That's fun. And I have to disconnect my iPad to charge the pencil. That is even more fun. Well, let's explain it then with what we have. So I have written out the numbers the scale degrees you would choose if you were to form a triad by starting on any note in the scale. And what I wanted to write next to these was that if you choose them, they will result in either a minor, what even word is that? Major, minor, or some other quality of triad, or some other quality chord. And it will work, and it will be within, and then if you choose it from these numbers, it will, or if you choose it from the numbers, from the scale, it will be within the scale, within the key, no matter which chord you make, as long as they consist of these scale degrees, right? But you could also pick any note within the scale, or not within the scale, and just go up and just choose that as like the R, right, as the root. And then you would go up a major third. That is what I mean by the capital M3. That is a major third. And then you would go up a little M3, which is a minor third. The major third being 3 semitones, 3 half steps, and a 4 half steps, and two whole steps, and a minor third being 3 half steps, or 1.5 whole steps, 3 semitones. So that is another way to create a triad, just by going by the distances alone. So I will demonstrate a couple of these concepts now. So let's say we are in the C major, and let's go ahead and form triads on every scale degree. So we have the root. That is actually a major triad because we have the root. You can't see it because my face is in the way. We have the root. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Our major third. And then we have from here 1, 2, 3. And that gives us our minor third, our little m3. So we end up with a major triad by choosing the first 3 notes, of course separated out by 1 scale degree in between. Let's do 2, 4, 6. This is going to be the 2 chord. And there's another name for this, right? So that what I just played was the 1 chord, the triad on 1. So that would end up being in C major. It would end up being a major triad. Now, if we were in minor, it would end up being a minor triad. I'll demonstrate. So let's say we're in C minor. That's C minor. If we did 1, 3, 5 in C minor, we now have a minor triad, which is 1, 2, 3. That's our minor little m3 minor triad to start with. Let me show you again. So minor third to major third. So we have here minor third and then major third. So let me go ahead and quickly, can I just do this? I have to disconnect my Apple Pencil, don't I? Oh no. There we go. I would like to add a couple more. Triad. Ooh boy. I can't tab over anymore. Yeah, that's lame. So we're not gonna have. Let's do a. I guess you couldn't call it a quartet. Let's just say a major 7th. So we can have more notes than just 3, and I'll show you a couple of them. Minor 7th. I'm typing here because my pencil just decided to run out of battery all of a sudden. So we want to start at the root. We want to go the same amount as the major scale, the same stuff as the major chord, excuse me, major triad. So root, major third, minor third. And then we want to go up. Let's go ahead and just quickly play this in. We want to go up another major third. So if we do that, we end up with what's known as a C major 7th chord. So this, why is it called 7th? Because that major third that we added, this can also be looked at in terms of the scale degrees. So let me just type underneath scale degrees are going to be 1, 3, 5, 7. So this is why it's called a major 7th chord, because it includes 1, 3, and 5 and the 7 of the scale. It sounds like this. Let me get this right. Sounds like that. It's a nice, super happy chord. Well, what about the minor seventh? This is a really common chord. I'm just gonna say that now. Once you know about this chord, you'll start to hear it everywhere in all sorts of music. This is a very good chord. Very, very good chord. The minor seventh. So we start with a minor triad. And then we go, so it's 1, 3, 5. We're in C minor. 1, 3, 5, 7. Remember, because I said we're in C minor, that 7 is a B flat. We have the chord, we have the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And if we looked at the pattern, perhaps we go from E flat major and then go down to semitones to get the notes. We will discover that there is a B flat there. And yes, I'm just trying to play B flat. So then, with that knowledge, let's create. So we have the minor 7 that one way. I'm going to just type this in. So we have the root. Excuse me. We have the way that we demonstrated the second way of looking at it first by scale degree. It would be 1, 3, 5, 7 again. Actually, it would be a flatted 7. This will be a way of looking at it if you were in C major. To get a minor 7th chord, let's say you're playing it on C, and you're in C major, you would flat the 3rd and flat the 7th. If you're looking at it, let's just do 1, 3, 5, 7. 3, 5, 7. And root, it'll be minor 3rd, major 3rd, whoops. Minor 3rd, major 3rd to a minor 3rd. So, see how they're the same, but they're different. Technically, they're different scales. Technically, hey, we have a viewer. Hello, hello. We are like way in the thick of things. I guess I could kind of scroll up a little bit and show you what I've been doing. Oh, lots of stuff. We kind of just been talking about scales and chords and what it all means. Been attempting to build an understanding of that. All right. So what we were talking about before, we were talking about how we can get chords from scales, right? And we just kind of showed a few examples. And also my pencil ran out of battery, so I started to type, and yeah, it started to look like this. This has been a fun one for sure. Let me build a basic chord progression. So once you have knowledge of a few chords that you can start with, let's actually kind of put some next to each other and form some form of start. So this is what I was talking about when I said you form the triads based on the scale. Let's do 1, 3, and 4. The chords on 1, 3, and 4. Then 3, and then 4. Let's try that. Metronome on. And I'm going to play that again, but this time I'll make it so you can see the keyboard instrument. And press record. One, 3, 4. And by the way, let's turn our looper on. 1. This is major, minor, major again, because by the scale it's like, so 1 and 3, 5 in C major. This is C, E, G. That is a major third, then minor third. Then we have E, then we have 3, a chord on 3, which is E in C major. E, G, B. That is a minor third, or a root to minor third to a major third. So it qualifies as it is minor. And then 4 to 6, back to 1. That is an F to an A, back to a C. So that is, again, a major triad. So that is what we have going on here. We could add some sevenths to make it more interesting. Let's maybe add a melody. We're in C major. Let's remember that. We'll add another track for this. Ooh, it's going to transpose it, isn't it? Yeah, it is. I was in A minor. I moved it to C major, and it moved my notes around. Not what I wanted. Let's get it back. There we go. There we go. Let's get a melody in. I'm just gonna do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and on the scale. Right, and I'm gonna do it 2 different ways. The first time I will sort of play along, but the whole time I will play the melody within the scale, within the C major scale. But there's another way to do it. There's another way to think of doing a melody, and that is depending on the chord that's being played at that time. Like, let's say you have an F major chord playing. You have 2 choices of what you can do. You can, first of all, you can continue playing in the C major. You can continue playing in the home key, because most of the notes will match up and be fine. Everything and it'll be okay. Might not be as interesting. Second option, better option in my opinion, is based on what chord is currently playing, you can then you can then know the scale. This is after practice, of course. You then know the scale of that chord that's currently being played. So, and in that case, you would play along with the same scale that the chord's quality is. So again, I'll repeat myself. You can play along with the chord's quality, or you can play along with the key you're in, the key's quality. What do I mean? What do I mean? What is he talking about? I'll explain. F. So, at first, we're going to demonstrate this with the F chord. At first, we have C major. So this is the tonic root key, root chord. C major. That happens twice. So there, either approach, we're playing in the key of C major. We're playing C through B on white keys. Now there's E major. Excuse me. Now that is E minor because it's on the third, therefore it's minor. on the third of a major scale. Therefore, it's a minor, and we'll talk more about those rules in detail when we have an exclusive audience, really. This is kind of just like getting stuff down, and we'll just sort of rehash on these examples as we go along camp, because I would like to do so when we have people present. And I'm sure this will need some sort of review because I've been going over a lot of info today to an empty class. So, you know, this is just kind of like, all right, getting this material out there, getting it ready, and then we will, of course, be going over this as we get into making more music. We'll sort of touch back on these concepts and in order to explain why I'm choosing certain chords and making certain decisions for melodies, and why you all would be making certain decisions for your melodies and your chords. So I would like to do this dual method of writing melodies. One being in the key always. Two being depending on what chord is playing, you will choose a different scale based on that chord. So for this third chord here, I might play then, because it's an E minor chord. We're still in C major, by the way, but it's an E minor chord on bar 3. So I could play in that E minor scale for that section. I could just break away from the C major scale for just a measure and play within E minor, because that's the chord that's playing, right? And then next we have F major, so we could then play in F major, which means we have an added B flat, right? Because F, if we go through the pattern, go through everything we need to do to figure out what the notes are, F has an additional flat, where C major, it's the B, by the way, the B is flat, but in C, the B is natural. The B is just B. So we can choose to play the B on measure 4. Measure 4. On measure 4. Or we can play the B flat. See what I mean? There, you have a chance to use this B flat and it'll work. I mean, technically, you kind of have the ability to use it in measure 1 and 2 as well. It kind of works. It's because the C, E, G, and B flat form a chord of their own, which we haven't yet talked about. But could be used there. Again, rules are not, the musical rules are fluid. Let me just quickly remind myself of what the E minor scale is. So yeah, for example, in E minor, the G is the F is sharped. So I could use that F sharp there on measure 3, but only on measure 3. And 7. Because it's repeating. See what I did? I'll do it again. I'm gonna display the keyboard. So those are the notes I'm using for bars 1 and 2. And then for bar 3, technically I could go up to here. F sharp is the F is the only sharp in E minor. And then for bar 4, a different scale. So you see how on bar 4 I had to immediately switch from using the F sharp to the F because we've changed scale. So once you start to get a feel for, once you start to practice, you know, going up and down scales, once you get familiar with how all the sound, the notes in all of them, and getting and figuring out new scales and chords, you can get better at making melodies. But in the start of things, you can always just use C major. So I'm going to make a melody with only those notes. See, both ways work. Both ways work just fine. But honestly, I think you get more interesting results if you choose different scales. You could even do like a hybrid. You could do like, and I mean, I don't want to just like go over too many things at once, but there's like these approach tones you could use. You don't have to necessarily use just the notes. You can like kind of go into another note by using like a note in between, like this. Oh, that's not like that. It's like A flat I would never use, but it works going up into A. And so on, and so forth. What else could we do? Ah, yes, bass lines. So going back to the whole concept of, or like, arrangements and the purpose of chords and all that. Where was that drawing I had of the different parts? Yes. So what I was just doing were the melodies, right? So we got the chords based on the degrees in the scale. We have the melody, which can either follow the scale, the root scale, always, or it can just be based on the chord that's currently playing. Two ways to think of melody. Honestly, like I said, the second way is better. Try to always be matching the context of the song. So, like, if the song is meant to move from chord to chord in some sort of motion, and I'll go over motion, the motion in a different stream. The motion of the chord progression, like it could go certain ways. It could go, okay, I can't, right? 'Cause I said I'll go over a different stream because my pencil is dead. I cannot draw things. But yada yada yada. But I will talk about kind of how we form good chord progressions. Which chords are good to pick. Because the whole goal of this is to sort of lead us somewhere, right? We want music to take us on a journey, so we need to make sure that there is some sort of destination with our chords, and we need to write them in a way that one leads to the next, and they all just sort of, it's like they form a pattern if you look from bar to bar, and then if you look back, you can see it's just got to be everything leading to the next chord. And that will lead us into talking about dominant chords, other chord qualities, other cool combinations of notes you can choose to make some really exotic sounding music. Like I don't know, let's see. Like this chord, for example. I mean, you're not limited to only just like so you can start to come up with some right. Like the no wire chord or whatever. I really like this one with the second. The 2. Like you can add like a second into a chord instead of just a 7. You can add all sorts of things. You can add a 13 and 11, meaning like the scale degree 11, the scale degree 13, for example. So the 9 or the 9 would be here. Excuse no. Period. So that's a 9th chord. And then we have an 11th chord. Or we could have a sus4. That's a sus4. Suspended 4th. All sorts of interesting things you can try, and you know, you could always just like not even think about the numbers or the intervals or anything. Just kind of play notes together and see which ones sort of ring out, which ones sound good together. There will be, if you just kind of play, if you just kind of play random selections of notes and some will sound good together, some won't. And the ones that do, I guarantee you, have a name. They have a name, they have a pattern associated with them, and you can, once you can figure out how to name them, you can make them, and you can make them happen in any key. You can take notes out, you can invert the chord, which we'll talk about inversions on a later date. We'll talk more about what parts of the chord we want to assign to different instruments, like arrangement sort of thing. Which of the notes from the chord is used in the bass line, because the bass line mirrors the chord a lot of the time. So, you know, things like that. Lots to get into. But lots to get into when we have audience to get into with. Well, alright. Well, I think that was a lot of talking to for today, and I kind of need to charge my Apple Pencil, so I'm just going to sort of wrap up here. I'm going to take a quick just overview of what we have done. So we talked about making scales, finding out the notes in the scale, finding the relative minor of this scale, the pattern in terms of whole and half steps of what a major and minor scale do the definitions here. The key, how you can figure out the key based on the pattern and vice versa. And then we talked about how we can take this collection of notes that we have built with this pattern, and also we can go back and forth between major and minor, and how we can pick those notes, create chords by choosing triads, and we can also add, it doesn't have to be just a triad, it can be 4 or 5 notes, but they would be scale degrees. They don't necessarily have to be scale degrees, but you could start out by defining them as scale degrees, and also defining them as just distances, intervals. And all this information, if you are curious, let me know, and I can link to, and in fact I might even do this tomorrow. We'll kind of do a brief review tomorrow, and I will bring up online a list of all of the possible chords. There is a Wikipedia page that lists all chords in existence, and in fact, I will also demonstrate this tomorrow. I've written a little program. Yes, that's right. I do programming things. I've written a program that can take any note and make a chord out of it based on this information. So it makes chord making super easy. I'll show you all of that tomorrow again. Because it requires us to go into Ableton so that I can use my software, and so that I can use other software. And it will be great fun, good times, and not as much boring screen lesson, stuff. More music making, I hope. Cool? Alright, so this will definitely be edited down, because, well, first of all, no one was here. Second of all, lots of hiccups on my part. I do apologize if anybody is watching this VOD all the way through and has to endure my inability to inability to explain some concepts efficiently, but I'm sure everything will be fine. Y'all will learn. Y'all will learn one way or another, whether or not you watch this video. So, until next time, I am going to say goodbye, and I would like to set, I guess tomorrow at 11 is a good time. Yeah. As long as there's nothing else happening before that. Okay. Okay. That is not right. Let's do Friday. Boy.